Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. We're so glad that you can join us for this joint presentation between Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss and Interact AS Speech-to-Text Automated Captioning. My name is Karen Anderson and I'm the Director of Supporting Success, and I can't be more pleased than to say I'm offering, or we are offering, this wonderful technology that's just getting better and better all the time. As we all know, there's increasing numbers of students with hearing loss in the mainstream classroom, and hearing devices do not restore normal hearing. Whether it's a cochlear implant or the top-notch latest hearing aids, they don't restore normal hearing. So these students continue to struggle with not being able to hear completely all of the teacher says. So at the end of 2014, the U.S. Departments of Justice and Education clarified that under the Americans with Disabilities Act, schools must ensure that the communication of students with hearing loss is as effective as it is for their hearing peers, which is a tall order. And if not, then auxiliary supports and services need to be provided. So Interact AS is an example of an auxiliary support that can be provided to a student to improve their communication access within the classroom setting. And obviously, accommodations must be matched to each individual's needs in each school situation. So automated captioning might be great for one student and might not work or fit the needs of another student. So we're very happy that you're here to learn more about Interact AS. It can be used as a primary accommodation, such as when a student is using it as a source for class notes, or using it in addition to an FM system, then the captioning can be a secondary accommodation. Or it can also be used as a speech generation device for a student who is deaf and does not choose to speak. The important consideration is making communication in the classroom as accessible as possible for students with hearing loss. And as part of this, if you are interested in Interact AS captioning software, as you learn more, we really are going to emphasize that you look into a trial period versus just trying to buy the software outright. We want to make sure that this is a good fit for any student that uses it. I would guess that many of you have a specific student or students in mind today and are seeking answers to your questions like, how does Interact AS work, and how accurate is it really? And will it be suitable for my student? And how does it going to interact with the other equipment we use? And what will it take to get Interact AS up and running in our school? Well, Supporting Success is very pleased once again to be partnering with Interact AS and with Robert Palmquist, who is the developer of the Interact AS software. And Rob and I are presenting this presentation, and I'm going to let Rob take it away. He does a beautiful job of describing the software, its use, and doing some nice demonstrations for us. So Rob, take it away.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate the nice invite, and thanks for hosting this webinar. And thank you, everybody, for joining in with spring break fast approaching, or maybe some of you are on spring break right now. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about Interact and everything that we're doing. Certainly, lots of people on the webinar, and we appreciate that. So please do ask questions. We do like getting questions from you. And so please go ahead and ask those questions, and we'll make sure that they all get answered. What we'll be covering today. So a little bit of Interact AS, a bit of background into where it came from. Then we're going to spend quite a bit of time, maybe 10 minutes at most, giving a demonstration. So this is a live demonstration of the software. We don't believe in pre-recording videos or something like that. Everything that we're going to be doing is going to be live. And then we'll spend some time on recommended approaches for using the software in the classroom. So we'll talk about the typical configuration that is used within the US and Canada mostly here versus overseas. And then we're going to finish up by showing you how you can do your own 30-day trial of Interact. And so let's get started with that. Very quick, we'll kind of go over this quickly, but a bit of background of where Interact came from. So initially this was developed in partnership with the U.S. Marine Corps, and we started this back in 2001. And so definitely some history here. And working with the Marine Corps, we developed this capability first for language translation capabilities, and then second to support their Wounded Warrior program. And so again, I'm going to jump over this pretty quick here, but we're certainly very appreciative of everything that the Marine Corps has done to make this happen. And in addition to that, the folks with the Office of Naval Research that helped facilitate and put all this together. It has been around for a while now. Our first product was deployed to theater operations, that means overseas operations, back in about 2004. And for Interact AS, what we're demonstrating today, that first product was deployed in about 2008. And over the time, certainly many groups have taken their time to evaluate the systems, and we're appreciative of them taking that effort. And we kind of like this one down here at the, which I say, 5 o'clock position the best. We are a little bit of geeks around here. We like technology. And so when somebody reviews our language translation products and comes out with a statement like this, we kind of like that. We think that's pretty neat. So with Interact, certainly we can caption multiple forms of speech. So a little bit of a chart here to go through. But in this particular webinar, we're going to focus on that third bullet, lectures and seminars. Certainly if you're in a situation where you have a movie that you're showing in the classroom that needs to be captioned, or if you're in the situation where you're producing your own videos. So for example, if you have a flipped classroom, certainly let us know. We'll briefly touch on how you can use Interact in those scenarios, but we can give you all sorts of additional detail on how you can use the software to caption those videos. I'm just going to mention this real quick. We're not going to demonstrate it, but just so that you're aware, in addition to captioning what's being spoken, you can also use the software to generate speech. So if you have a student who is nonverbal or is uncomfortable speaking in class, built into the software is the ability for you to generate speech and do this very quickly. It's designed to be a very verbose speech generation system, so you can say exactly what you want to say at any time versus very limited phrases. So a lot going on there, and again, if you're interested in that, let us know. I'm also going to briefly mention up front here the language translation module. This is an optional module that you can buy with your Interact system, and with this now you can have conversations in multiple languages. There's about 40 languages that we support. So if you're in a situation where a parent would prefer to speak Spanish or Vietnamese or Russian or something like that, now you can use this software in order to remove that language barrier. Anything that you say will be spoken in that second language and vice versa. So again, that's the optional module that you could purchase for the system. So we're talking about the new release of Interact, which came out beginning of this year. And so this is version 6.0, a significant improvement over version 5.0, significantly improved accuracy. The voice training has kind of gone away. In the past, it was quite important that you spend probably 6-7 minutes creating a voice profile for each teacher. You can certainly still do that, and you are encouraged to do that, but you certainly don't need to. The voice training now takes literally 15 seconds of reading a paragraph, and again, you really don't need to do that anymore. It's recommended, but certainly not needed. Very much improved noise filtering, so if you have a loud classroom, lots of background noise, we're able to handle that much better. Favorites list and converter tool that gets into the speech generation capabilities, and integrated streamer setup. So right now, some of you are watching a captioning of everything that I'm saying, and you're using Streamer to do that. And I'll demonstrate that for you in a little bit. And certainly more. What Streamer is, and again, I'm going to demonstrate this for you. But a Streamer gives the ability for multiple teachers or multiple students to view a captioning that's being generated. And you can view this captioning on an iPad or a Chromebook or something like that. Also, with the new versions, now you can send documents to students or just a note saying, hey, are you on task, something like that. And so, again, all built into the capabilities of Streamer. But let's get into demonstrations. To me, that's a whole lot more interesting than just talking about it. A quick tour of Interact before I do the live screenshots here. At the very top, what we have is our navigation bar. And so there's 5 pages within Interact: the user page, translate, configure, visualize, and help page. We're going to spend most of the time on the user and translate page in this particular webinar. The very top box shows the most recently spoken phrase. We deliberately put that in the very top box to make it very easy for the student to find that captioning. So this is very similar to what you would see on a television set, where you see the captioning, it's there for a moment, and when the next phrase is spoken, that previous one disappears forever, and the new phrase is placed there. This is a very easy, quick glance way to find a sentence that perhaps the student just missed. So you as the teacher, maybe at that moment, you looked down at an iPad, or you turned around to write on a whiteboard. Or maybe you just took a few steps towards the back of the class to engage some students that maybe weren't listening quite accurately enough in the back of the classroom. During that moment, that student who is hard of hearing, perhaps they couldn't see your face, and so they lost the ability to understand what you were saying. So this is a quick glance approach where they can just look down there and see what you said. In the middle box, we have the control box where you can turn captioning on and off, several other features that happen there. But down in the bottom, what you see is a running transcript of everything that's been said. So built into that transcript is what we call synchronized voice recordings, also some other features. So let me demonstrate them. So let's just get out of the PowerPoint slides here, and let's go straight into Interact. I'll pull this up. And let's see where to go. Here we go. So this is the user page of Interact. And on the user page, what you will typically have is a user account for each person that you will be captioning. So for example, each teacher during the course of a day, maybe the basketball coach, the cafeteria workers, media center, anybody that's going to be captioned, you'll typically have a user account for each of those. You'll probably also have a user account just called substitute teacher or guest or something like that for somebody who's using the system that hasn't taken the time to set up a user account. By the way, setting up a user account, about 2 minutes. Certainly not a big process to do that. Now in the translate page is where you'll see all the captioning that's being generated. So what I'm going to do right now is turn on my microphone. And when I do that, now everything that I'm saying is being captioned. Again, this is all happening in real time. I'm not reading any sort of script or something like that. This is all very much live. And actually what you're seeing at your end is probably about a second behind what I see at my end. That's simply because of this GoToWebinar software. There's a bit of delay in what you're seeing. So if you think it's a little bit delayed, on my end, it's actually much more real time. So again, everything that I'm saying is being captioned. At the very top box, what you see is the most recently spoken sentence. And down at the bottom, what you see is a running transcript of everything that I'm saying. You'll notice that we're using context in order to generate the appropriate translation. So for example, if I say something like, please write your name right now. What you can see is that second and fourth word are spelled differently, as they should be. Again, please write your name right now. It's all part of using context in order to generate the appropriate transcript. So if I say something like, my phone number is 612-232-1234. you can see that the formatting was how you would expect a phone number to appear. The system was smart enough to figure out that that sequence of numbers was indeed a telephone number, because in the sentence I used the word phone. Again, something like, my phone number is 507-645-8924. Or something like, today is March 15th, 2017. The temperature outside here in Minnesota is 30 degrees. And so you can see the appropriate formatting is being used in the transcripts. That's all part of the capabilities that are built into the software. So let me turn off the microphone for a second, and I'm going to show you some additional features. So what we have here is a transcript that we've generated. And what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and save that. Now let me show you something else first. I want to show you the synchronized voice recording feature that's built into the transcript. So let me go ahead and highlight a portion of this. And let's just grab these two sentences here. And I hope you can hear this. Let me try and play it back. Outside here in Minnesota is 30 degrees. So you can see the appropriate formatting is being used in the transcript. I hope you could hear that. What that was a recording of my voice of what I was saying at the moment that that portion of the transcript was generated. So if you're a student that is hard of hearing and you're in the classroom, and let's say the scenario is there's 5 minutes before the bell is about to ring. During that moment, you as the teacher, you may start speaking a little bit faster because you're trying to fill in all that important information before the bell rings. At the same time, the other students are starting to make noise by shuffling chairs around, putting books in bags, that sort of thing. For the student that's hard of hearing, that can be very stressful because you're missing out on all that important information. It's just chaos in terms of an audio structure. So now with this software, what the student can do is just highlight that portion of the transcript and play back what they otherwise would have missed during those final 5 minutes. So again, a very nice feature in terms of being able to better support the student in terms of communications. Next, I'm going to show you how to save the transcript. And I do that by coming over here on the right side. And in this case, I'm going to save the transcript. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. And I guess I'll go ahead and save this as a Microsoft Word document. There are a variety of formats in which you could save it, a Google Doc, for example. And in this case, I'm just going to call it today's date, so March 15th, 2017. And again, I'm saving this to my desktop, so I'll go ahead and click Save. And now I want to show that to you. So let's pull over my desktop here, and it should be the most recent document at the top. There it is. And what we have now is a Word document of everything that I was saying. So again, very easy for you to edit this document if you want, or to share this with students, put it on a server, whatever you prefer. So bottom line, you can save the transcript, you can edit that transcript, you can save it in multiple formats. In that transcript, you can have a synchronized voice recording. That's a feature you can turn off, by the way. You don't have to have that. Built into the system. So lots of functionality that's happening here within Interact AS. So that was basically the demonstration that I was going to give you. Let's go back to the PowerPoint slides. And I want to get back into the typical configuration that is used in classrooms. So let's scroll down here and catch up to where we were. There we go. And so, let me scroll through a few more here. Sorry about this. There we go, typical classroom setup. By far in the US, the most common deployment is for a student to have the tablet sitting on their desk. I'm sorry, the student to have that laptop or tablet sitting on their desk. In Asia, in Europe, it tends to be a little bit different. There, what typically happens, especially in Asia, is they equip every classroom with an Interact system. So instead of having the system at the student's desk, they had it at the teacher's desk, and they're using streamer or displaying the captioning on the front whiteboard. You can do it either way. It's certainly whatever your preference is. On that tablet, what we really like to have is Windows 8.1 or 10. If you're running Windows 7 or even Vista, we're fine with that. But we do like newer operating systems. We also would really like to have an Intel i7 processor. If you have a newer i5, we're okay with that. But we do really hammer processors. So the faster the processor you can get, the more accurate the captions will be. We also like to have about 8 gigabytes of RAM and a USB port for the microphone. If you're going out and buying a brand new computer to meet these specs, the minimum you'll spend is about $500. More realistically, you're probably going to spend $650 to, let's say, $800 on buying a new laptop that meets those specs. Also, what we have is our recommended wireless FM system. So you can kind of see this here. This is roughly about 1/3 the size of a Phonak system or Oticon system, and the price is probably about 1/5. But we certainly recommend that you use this system. You can use something like a Phonak Inspiro, but this system is going to be far more accurate for you. It's much higher fidelity than those other systems, much higher fidelity. And so we do recommend that you use that. Also smaller in size, again, so easy to port around. Let's talk about Streamer for a minute, and then I'm going to demonstrate it for you. Streamer takes the captioning from Interact AS and streams it to a student's device. So if the teacher, for example, up at the front, has Interact running on their Windows computer, what you can do is take that captioning and stream it to a Chromebook or to an iPad or an iPhone or a Kindle, anything like that, and multiple students would be able to view the captioning. So if you're in a classroom with, let's say, 5 students, instead of buying 5 copies of Interact, you're just going to buy a single copy. And all 5 students are going to be able to view that captioning using this streamer product. Also applies for morning announcements. So if you have, let's say, 20 students throughout your campus that would like to see a captioning of those morning announcements, now you can do that using Streamer. All school assembly is another one, team teaching, and also if you have a student that's homebound. So we had some situations recently where that comes into play, where they want to caption the classroom lecture, but the student, in this case, was in a hospital. And so they were using Streamer in order to facilitate the captioning needs for that student. So let's jump over there, and I'm going to show you Streamer. Bring back up Interact. Here we go. Turn on my microphone. So once again, everything that I'm saying is being captioned. Again, this is all happening in real time. And what I want to do is show you Streamer. So I'm going to bring this over here. And this is just a browser window. And you could have this type of window appearing on any sort of device. This could be a Kindle or a Chromebook or an iPhone or an iPad. And I'll get my window scrolled here. So what you're seeing is everything that I'm saying on Interact is being captioned. At the very bottom here, you can see the most recently spoken sentence. And you can see also that that's appearing now on this Streamer window. So there's a lot going on here on this particular screen. You're looking at both Interact and you're looking at the Streamer window. But for a student in the classroom, all they're going to do is pull up this Streamer window. And what they're going to see is the captioning of everything that you're saying. So again, think in terms of having a single Interact license support multiple students that want to view the captioning, or a student that's in a very remote location, for example, homebound or perhaps in a hospital setting. Okay, so that's Streamer. And now let's get back into some additional options here. So what we have is the flipped classroom. And This is slowly becoming more important to educators, where we're seeing a little more common to have flipped classrooms be part of the situation. So in a flipped classroom, what I mean by that is that you are recording a lecture which a student is going to watch at home, and then they're going to come in and do the homework. If you're in that situation, let us know. With the next release of Streamer, which is going to come out the end of this month, you will be able to use Interact to very easily caption videos that you are creating. Small group discussions, also the ability then to use a handheld microphone that students can pass around. So built into Interact is that ability to better support students in that type of environment, and of course the homebound, as we mentioned. Some help in order to get you started using Interact. The folks at Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss have put together 10 short videos showing you how to use it in the classroom. So certainly I'd recommend that you do that. Take a look at those. Here is the location of those, and you'll be able to go to YouTube to view those. And we'll be sending you the access to these, so you don't have to frantically write down that bit.ly address. If you forget that, you can also go to YouTube and search for real-time captioning with Interact AS. Again, those are 10 short videos that are going to show you some of the background of Interact AS, and then get into how to configure it, how to use the microphones, to some pretty advanced features like how to add your own vocabulary to the system, and some user tips built into that. Each video is probably about 5, maybe a little longer than that, minutes, so not a whole lot of time, but very valuable in terms of what you can learn. Also, while you're on YouTube, if you're there, I'll encourage you to take a look for the Success for Children with Hearing Loss channel, and you're going to see lots of additional information beyond Interact AS that is very valuable. So it's a really nice resource in order to find out more in terms of supporting students that are hard of hearing. So here is the direct link for Success for a Hearing Loss website. And I'm going to pull this over here in just a second. But first, let's talk about total budget, just so that you're covered with that. So first of all, you're going to purchase the software. So a permanent, fully transferable license, and this is unlimited use. There's no concept here of having to pay a per minute fee or anything like that. That total price is $775. So a one-time fee, and that's it. The microphone, the one we recommend, is $349, and that's going to get you the transmitter, the receiver, the carrying case, that sort of thing. If you want to purchase a separate headset for each teacher, which is very common, the magic number seems to be about 7, and so the extra cost for that would be $196. The computer, we've talked about that, so a Windows, ideally Windows 10, with ideally an i7 processor. So depending on what you buy, that sort of gives you a range in terms of how much that's going to cost. Certainly if you already have a computer that meets those specs, use the computer. But if you are going to go out and buy a new one, please add this into your budget. Again, faster processor is certainly desired. The faster the processor, the more accurate the transcriptions will be. So there's kind of your bottom line cost if you're budgeting for a permanent, unlimited use, fully transferable system. And so that'll get you going. How can you start your own 30-day trial of Interact AS? We strongly encourage you to do a trial before you buy. There's no real downside to doing a trial because every penny that you spend on doing a trial is going to be directly applied to your actual purchase. And so we do want you to try just to make sure it's a good fit for your situation. 2 different options. The second one is strongly recommended for educational settings or K-12 settings. So that 30-day trial will cost you $99, plus you're going to pay upfront a return deposit on the microphone. We're loaning you that microphone, and I don't know a nice way of saying that, but we had great difficulty getting people to return those microphones back to us. And so unfortunately, we had to start upfront charging that return deposit. If you decide to keep the microphone, that deposit is applied towards your purchase of your system. If you return it, once you do return it, that money gets refunded to you. With your trial, you can run it on as many computers as you like. So your personal computer, the school computer, the student's computer, the parent's computer. We have people take it to church to caption services or give it to friends to use in their place of work. You're more than welcome to, for that single price, to do the trial on as many computers as you want. And also with this trial, you're going to be able to keep the microphone system that we loan you for 45 days. And certainly there's some flexibility in that. Spring break is coming up, and so if you have a week off school, we understand that. So we're going to extend your trials and those loaner dates by an additional week to compensate for that spring break that just happened during your trial period. So again, some contact information here where you can get a hold of us. And we're going to bring Karen back online, and I do want to spend a little bit of extra time here over on the Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss website.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
I think one of the things that people are wanting to hear is about the accuracy, and I was looking at the accuracy of everything that you said. There was only one error. So the accuracy has moved from 90% to more like 95% or even better. And one of the things I always need to emphasize is that the only thing that gets captioned is what's coming through that microphone. So in this case, most of the time it's the teacher that's going to be wearing the microphone in the front of the room. So those classroom discussions that are occurring across the room are not going to be captioned, just as when the teacher's wearing a teacher mic and the student's wearing an FM receiver, that students not hearing the classroom discussion through the teacher's mic on the FM transmitter either. So in these cases, the only way they're going to have access is if you use a pass-around mic, or if the teacher tries to do that summarizing key information, that kind of thing. So that's a question that a lot of people ask. Another one is there's some places that are quite sensitive about recording information and letting it outside of the schoolroom. And it's totally up to you, your system, and your teacher who gets the transcripts. We've talked about how nice it is for students to have the captioning and then to take home the transcripts to review with their homework. That doesn't have to happen. That's an internal decision that you guys would make. And that it might be that the teacher is going to have something going on in the classroom and she doesn't want to have it captioned. And if that's the case, it's a matter of just asking the student to turn it off, whatever. You guys are in control of that. It's not that everything's going to be captioned all the time without any question. No, you are in control of that. All right, well, what you see in front of you here is the Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss homepage. And on the left menu, as you scroll down, there you can see the Interact AS section we have. And there's really quite a lot of information within this. How about just for now, there's information about candidacy and there's information about finding benefit. There's just a lot of information there. And then all those videos that Rob has already mentioned are also mentioned on that first Interact AS page. But for right now, let's do just what Rob wants to do, and let's look at that purchasing page, because that's what most people like to do next, just to kind of get a feel. One of the things we like to have you do, number 2 there, is to request a quote. And we have a fellow working with Supporting Success called Mike Massini, and Mike has a tremendous amount of experience with working with school districts who are implementing Interact AS for the first time. And most school districts like to go through a quote process, even if they're going to do a trial period. And when you download this PDF file, by the questions it asks, it will help to describe your student and your situation and the specifics. If there's an FM used, if they're an ASL visual communicator, how is it going to be used? So that's a good place to start as you think about, gosh, what do we need and how will it be used for our particular student? We do take purchase orders. That's a good thing because most school districts like to do that, especially for large purchases. And as Rob had said, the trial period ends up being pretty inexpensive if at the end of 45 days you think, well, this is okay, but it's just not good for our system or for our students, or our teachers aren't very willing to use it. For whatever reason, as long as you put it in the mail by that 46th day and we get it back shortly thereafter, we'll return the whole $300 that you had as a rental deposit. And Rob has already described the different costs involved, so you can find those spelled out on this page as well. So I think at this point, Rob, are there any questions that have been written in that we need to look at?
Yeah, let's see, a few questions. So yes, this is a permanent unlimited use license. So you do not need to pay any per minute fees like you would with cart services. There's no concept here whatsoever of having to schedule in advance or need for network or anything like that. This is a system that once you purchase it, you can use it as often as you want, anywhere that you want, and there is no additional per minute fee or anything like that associated with the system. Let's see, languages. So there are 40 languages that we support, and I guess what I'd recommend is that you just send us an email. I'll pull up the contact information again, and I can respond back with the languages that are supported in that. Certainly Spanish, is supported, but in addition to that, Vietnamese, Russian, and rather than list off all 40 of them, just drop me a line and I'll be able to do that. Let's see, a little confusion with Streamer. Again, I want to make sure that you understand that Streamer, all that does is displays the captioning that's being produced by InteractAS. So InteractAS is running somewhere on a Windows computer, and the captioning that's being generated by Interact then can be streamed, or to use the word displayed, on a student's device. And yes, that device is anything that can connect to the internet. So an iPad, an iPhone, a Chromebook, any sort of Android device, Kindle, lots of very inexpensive devices, very small in size, that a student can easily carry from class to class. But InteractAS is not running on that Chromebook or that device. It is just simply displaying the captioning that's being generated by Interact running on a Windows box somewhere.
I wanted to jump in and just say how exciting it was. We had our National Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss conference last month, and about 200 people attended, and we used InteractAS for all of our captioning. So our presenters wore the microphone, and we were having captioning running and going over Streamer. So it was fun to look out into the audience and see people looking at their phones or looking at their iPads or whatever, watching the captioning as they were listening as well. It's really a pretty impressive system.
So that covers most of the questions. Marguerite and Gail, I see you have a couple very specific questions. And so after the webinar, if you can stick around about 5 minutes, I'll make sure and get those questions answered as well.
And again, I want to encourage people to send us that quote page. There's directions where to send it to. It will go to Mike Massini, who is our school contact person, and he will be in touch with you. He'll be sending a thank you in email to all of you with the slides and the recording that goes along with it. And so you'll already have that contact information. So he'll talk you through how to configure using different FM devices. For example, there is information on the website that's computer setup, that's part of the Interact piece of it as well. But certainly there's all of our contact information. Mike Massini is the one where it says send an email to InteractAS support. He is our InteractAS support, so he's our frontline person to help you through the initial questions and the trials. And absolutely, Rob is a very good resource as well. I don't want to say that he's not, because obviously he is. And then the last thing I wanted to say before goodbye is that I know that CEUs are important to educators. So if you would like to have a certificate of participation for 1 hour for attending this conference or this webinar, I would be happy to send you a certificate. I would guess you're going to spend the next 15 minutes looking at the website at the various bits of information or looking at a couple of videos. So please email me and with your request for a certificate of participation. My email is Karen, Karen, at successforkidswithhearingloss.com. So it's like the string on the back of send an email to there when you see Interact AI Support. Instead, it's Karen at successforkidswithhearingloss.com. So thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you. Certainly send in questions by email, as Rob has said, and we will absolutely get back to you. So thanks again for all your time. If you haven't had spring break, please enjoy it. Bye-bye now.